So I would say our accomplishment working together has been to open up the doors of the Athenaeum, and I think make it a welcoming place for not only the summer residents but also for year-round people. And we've done a lot, I think, in terms of outreach and to make it the hub for the town.
Could you even call it sort of a community cultural center as opposed to the hub?
Yes, I do. I think that it's a crossroads. And we don't have a community center per se on Nantucket, but I think the Athenaeum actually serves that function, both in a formal way with the programs that we do and the services, but also in an informal way where people, when they're making their rounds in their daily lives, make the Athenaeum a very significant stop.
A few years ago, for budget reasons, you had to cut back the hours and close on Mondays. Is that a real problem, or do you think the community's adjusted to it and
Yes, Mondays we were often closed during the winter and open in the summer on Mondays. We really only reduced the hours by 3 per week, so that we'd still be in compliance with the state certification. I think that we try to give maximum service on the days that we're open. If I could see my way to opening on either Sunday or Monday again, I would like to do that, and we're kind of running the numbers to see if that's possible. But it is totally a function of the budget.
Let's talk, before we get into the fun stuff, let's talk about the budget for a minute.
All right.
What is the Athenaeum's budget now?
It's $1.9 million.
How much of that comes from the town?
About 35% of it is financed by the town.
So roughly $600,000.
Right. And the rest of it we need to raise every year. And we do that in a variety of ways. We have an annual campaign. We have a small endowment that we can draw from. But the lion's share of it comes from our fundraising events, and that's the Turkey Plunge and the Dance Festival.
The town share, has that changed much in the last few years?
It's been steady, and there is a rather complicated formula that the state requires that there be a 2.5 increase each year. And the town has complied with that. And so we get this modest increase each year, and I'm very grateful for the town's contribution. We couldn't do it without them. But it does leave us with about $1 million a year to raise outside of that.
You also have a very expensive building to maintain. We
do. And many public libraries don't own their own building. It's usually a town building. And it's about $250,000 to maintain that building every year, plus the garden, which I think is an important asset for downtown too, because it's one of the few green spaces available to the public downtown.
And it gets a lot of use.
It does. It does. It requires upkeep.
The Athenaeum is a bit unusual. I'm not sure many people realize that. It's not unique, but it's unusual in the sense that it is the town's public library, but it is owned and operated by a private corporation. What percentage of the libraries in the state work this way? Do you know? I
think it's a small percentage. The majority get 80 to 90% of their funding from the municipality in which they're located. So there are a few libraries around the state, like the Athenaeum, that are really outliers that depend a great deal on private fundraising and private donations in order to operate.
Wasn't Andrew Carnegie sort of the father of the concept of the free public library?
Yes, and there was a burst of public libraries around the turn of the last century.
But the Athenaeum is much older than that.
The Athenaeum itself is older. It was founded in 1834 and was a private membership library until 1900. And it was swept up in the public library movement. And if you read back through the minutes of the Board of Trustees meetings in those early days, there was quite a long discussion about changing it from being a private library to a public library. But from 1900 on, we've been the island's public library. And I think that public libraries, I'll do a little soapbox here, are really the cornerstone of democracy. To be able to provide free information to our citizens is such an important tenet for this country to have. And it's, it's interesting when we have our newest immigrants coming to the library often to take our English language classes. For many of them, the concept of a public library is a really completely new one because they come from countries that don't have a public library. And it's part of our program in teaching them English language is also about introducing them to a culture of free public libraries.
So what's going on at the Athenaeum?
All right, we got a lot of good stuff going on. Where do I start? Well, we have, a large collection through CLAMS, which is the network we belong to. So we have 1.5 million items that people can borrow. And it's the new year. Everybody has a lot of resolutions on how they're going to improve their lives. So if you're interested in taking up a foreign language, that's often at the top of the list, you can go to the Athenaeum's website and get a free foreign language program called Mango. It has 16 foreign languages you can choose from and get busy on that first resolution. If you're interested in downloading music, we have something called Freegal, and you can download legally and for free, hence the word Freegal, the whole Sony playlist. You can do 3 songs a week. The teens are very popular. It's very popular with the teens, of course, but adults like it as well. We do over 800 programs a year, and the ones we have coming up, and that's where I get to show my toys.
Here, why don't you give me that and I can show
All right, exactly. That's One Book, One Island, which just launched this week.
What's this, the 4th year of that program?
No, it's the 6th year.
6th year, sorry.
And this is the book we've chosen, and there are free copies. Over 500 free copies are available, and it is a program that is a collaboration, and collaboration is very important to us. There are 12 nonprofit organizations that are doing this community read, and we have a series of events that start in February, the week of February 3rd, around this book. But meanwhile, everybody needs to get their book and start to read. All right, then, back by popular
We've
request,
never seen this book before.
This will be the 2nd year we do the Moby Dick Marathon, and it'll be taking place on January 26th and 27th. And this year we're going to have 3 locations for it. We're going to start at the Quaker Meeting House for the first 14 chapters, and then we move to the Athenaeum. Then we move to the NHA, then particularly for the chapters where they talk about the whales, bits and bobs, we'll be right underneath the skeleton and we can look at the skeleton. And then at midnight, we'll come back, Saturday night, midnight, we'll come back with a lantern-led walk to the Athenaeum for the overnight one. And you'll see that little tab. I'm reading chapter 73 at 4:30 a.m. on Sunday morning. So it
Stub
goes
and Flask, may I read this? Stub and Flask kill a right whale,
Yes.
and then have a talk over him.
It's an action-packed chapter. I feel very lucky to have gotten that chapter. But it goes from noon on Saturday to about noon on Sunday, and I have to say we've got all the chapters have been spoken for, but if you really want to get on the waiting list, come on down to the library and we'll be happy to put you on the waiting list. Otherwise, just come and enjoy Moby Dick being read aloud. Also, I was talking about collaborations, like with One Book, One Island. We do films with Sustainable Nantucket. We do also films with Nantucket Network of Wellbeing. We do a collaboration with the Theater Workshop, and the next staged reading will be One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest. That's in February. UMass students who are coming shortly to spend a semester here. They'll be taking classes on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at the Athenaeum in the gallery, and we're very excited about being part of that program. Outreach. Many people don't realize that our children's librarian, for instance, spends one day out of the building doing story times at all the preschools and daycare centers on the island. We have a homebound program where we take orders for books and DVDs, and we have a fleet of people who make sure they get delivered to home. And I spoke briefly about the English language classes that we give every Thursday, as well as set up tutoring for people wanting to learn English, adults. So there's a lot happening.
What's that?
Oh, well, I mean, in terms of the New Year's resolutions, if you're interested, we have a big collection of courses, either done on audio or video version. So here's one I grabbed off the shelf on astronomy. It's about 36 hours of lectures on astronomy by a well-known professor, and just about every subject you might be interested in, we have programs like this for self-learning. And I think one of the things that libraries do particularly well is to support lifelong learning. And there's some really interesting developments that are out there in general, and I think the library is going to be very much a part of that. There's a whole wave of digitization that's taking place, and we most recently digitized all the historic newspapers on Nantucket, and they're available online back to 1816. And we've had so many people telling us how valuable it's been, both for professional research.
Is it indexed at all, or is it?
Well, that's the wonderful thing, is it's keyword searchable. Yeah. So if you're interested in women in whaling, you can type in those search items and get a huge long list of articles that have appeared in those newspapers.
You may remember Google set up a program a number of years ago to digitize books at 5 or 6 university libraries in this country, and I think in London. Did you know that the millionth book that they digitized at the University of Michigan Library was a biography of Maria Mitchell?
Yes. Nantucket has this far reach, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
Indeed.
Molly, it sounds like a lot is going on. Thank you for coming and sharing it with us. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much.